Great, I want to start out my presentation today by making the statement that when you hear the word poverty, you automatically think of third world countries. Countries like Africa, India, Thailand. Will you raise your hand if you agree with this statement? Thank you. Okay, so most of you. So actually, there is an overwhelming amount of poverty in America, which I think many Americans ignore on a day-to-day basis because we choose to ignore it. Both of these pictures were taken in American states, and to prove that the type of situations that are happening in American poverty, I want to share with you a story about Desiree. Desiree is a 24-year-old mother of 3 children, 3 little girls ages 6, 4, and 2. They live in New York City in a 2-bedroom apartment, and she has had many obstacles in her life. She started, they started when her mother was very abusive to her in her childhood. At the age of 12, her mother threatened to kill her, and she was put into a foster care program, and she moved around foster care houses so many times that she ended up going to 26 schools throughout her childhood because she was moving around so much in the foster care program. She now lives in New York and is a trained assisted nurse, but she cannot find a job, and part of the reason why is because she doesn't have any mode of transportation that's available to her. And on top of that, her husband just filed a job that he was working for McDonald's, and then the government reduced their monthly income because they factored in the amount of income that he would be making from McDonald's, and then her husband left 2 weeks later. So now she's a single mother of 3 living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and she has less income from the government because her husband's file is still on her record. She said in response to this, the government should be helping you, not setting you up to fail. And that is the attitude that unfortunately over 12.3% of America has to deal with as they're living in poverty, which equates to over 40 million Americans that are facing situations like Desiree's every day. Part of the problem, as you saw in Desiree's example, is that when you file that you get a new job, the government reduces your monthly income, which logically would make sense, except that these people aren't getting high-paying jobs; they're getting minimum wage jobs, and so they're not making enough money to still support their family. And so when the government continues to reduce their amount of income, then they are falling deeper into poverty because they are not making enough money to support their family. Another very big factor of this is that is addictions. Over 3.7 million of those who are in poverty have a very strong addiction to drugs, and another statistic to add to that is that 10% of income in these low income housing units is spent on tobacco products on average. And it is really heartbreaking to think that when you think of all that is needed to support a family, you have housing, you have food, clothing, shelter, all those many things that you have to keep up to date on in this very costly world that we live in, that so much of the money that is already very limited by the government is going to support addictions. And the hardest thing too is that these people who aren't choosing to do anything, who are supporting their addictions, are receiving more money than the families who are willing to work. And so in solution to that, I came up with the idea that the government needs to give more money to those who are willing to work. The government, whether they do it through increasing the minimum wage level that is set right now, or through just creating a system that that makes it possible for families to factor in the new income that they are making from their new jobs and still receiving the extra amount that is needed to sustain their families. Along with the government and what they can do to fix this problem, I want to talk about what individually we can all do to help. I know many of us see homeless people, especially downtown in Salt Lake City, and many of them have signs and posters that are asking for help, which I think it's totally great to go and help them. But one suggestion I have is to give them food or supplies or the water that they need that is essential for them to live rather than money. I think that this could really help them because, one, they will receive more motivation to go get a job to make more money, and then they can choose to use that money for addictions or to support themselves, but if we are not giving them the money, then they will not have any other money. They won't have money unless they get it from the government. And so hopefully by doing this, they will receive more motivation to work, and hopefully the government will be able to see an increased need for a new system that needs to be created. In conclusion, I want to share with you this quote by Mother Teresa. She said, "We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love." And I think that is so true, especially in this overwhelming problem. It is such a big number and so many people that are affected by it, but if we can just do our part to help them by giving the homeless food and items instead of money, I think that will give them the motivation they need to go find jobs, and that's all. Thank you.